He proposed to her at our wedding. Not after. Not before. Right there, in front of everyone. The man I thought I'd spend forever with took the ring meant for me and gave it to someone else, while I stood frozen in my white dress, surrounded by gasps and champagne and betrayal. He announced our engagement, his voice shaking with false joy, eyes flickering not toward me but toward the crowd. Then, in a moment so surreal I thought I was dreaming, he handed my ring to her. My stomach turned cold, confusion crashing through my chest like a tidal wave. Was this real? Was this some cruel twist of fate or an elaborate joke? But it was. He looked at her like she was the one he'd been waiting for all along. I stood frozen at the altar, the bouquet slipping from my grasp as his voice cracked. I can't do this anymore. Just a heartbeat ago, I had been walking down the white aisle in my grandmother's handmade lace dress, feeling the weight of generations, the hope of forever shimmering in every thread. The sunlight danced through stained glass, painting our guests in kaleidoscopic hues. But now, I stood alone, a statue among the living, watching him kneel before someone else, his best friend's sister, her eyes wide with surprise, mine wide with horror. He slid the ring off my trembling finger and onto hers, as if revealing the greatest prize in a cruel game I hadn't agreed to play. The reception hall blurred into chaos. Guests gasped, chairs scraped across marble floors, silver champagne glasses clinked in stunned hands. My mother clutched her chest, my father stepped forward then froze, helpless. I tasted tears, felt elderflower punch soak into my satin shoes. The best man lunged forward, whispering urgently in my ear, "Please, don't do this." Do what? Exist. Stand here. Watch the ashes of my future fall like snow around me. I shook my head, the world tilting on an invisible axis, and fled down the garden path. My heels echoed on the cobblestones, petals from the arbor fluttered around me like broken promises. The laughter and music from moments ago now sounded like a cruel joke echoing from another universe. That night in my suite overlooking the moonlit courtyard, I sat on the silk chaise lounge, my dress stained with tears, dirt, and disbelief. I replayed our vows, a laundry list of forever, each word now a blade. I wondered if he ever meant a single sentence, a single sigh. The glow of my phone only deepened the shadows in the room. Texts from concerned friends, unanswered calls from relatives, but nothing from him, not a word. I thought I knew him. I thought we were building something together. But now it felt like I had been an extra in a play he'd rewritten without my knowledge. At dawn, I called my sister. My voice trembled, but there was a quiet steel beneath it. She arrived within hours, clutching a suitcase and my favorite ice cream. We sat on the floor, spooning cold comfort from the pint, shedding my dress layer by layer like old skin. I poured out everything, his late nights at work, the unanswered texts, the whispered phone calls in other rooms, the lipstick stain I'd once found and never confronted. I had swallowed doubt after doubt, convincing myself that love meant trust, that love meant silence. She listened, fury and sorrow radiating from her. "You deserved so much more," she whispered, and in that moment I began to believe her. Over the next week, I unraveled the tapestry of his lies, pulling thread after thread until nothing remained. I sifted through messages, compared timelines, cross-checked hotel receipts and business trip excuses. Every fact was a fresh betrayal. Every lie, a dagger twisted. And her, she wasn't an accidental participant. She was woven into the deception with practiced ease. I remembered the way she used to smile at me, offer help with the wedding, send congratulatory texts. All part of the illusion. But I refused to let them steal my voice. I refused to be a footnote in their love story. I packed the dress into a box, preserving the lace but discarding the fantasy. I wrote a letter, not full of anger or accusation, but honest and sharp as shattered glass. I slipped it under his hotel room door, the same room we were meant to honeymoon in. It read, "You didn't just betray me. You betrayed the version of you I believed in. That's the part I mourn the most." Weeks blurred into months. I traveled. I painted. I walked barefoot on unfamiliar shores. I learned to be alone without feeling lonely. I laughed again, small at first, then louder. I made new memories, met new people who didn't carry the weight of broken promises. Then one rainy afternoon, I ran into her in a bustling cafe downtown. She looked startled, eyes wide with the same stunned silence I wore on what should have been our wedding day. But beneath the shock, I caught something else. guilt flickering behind her lashes, a tremor in her lips like words were trying to escape but couldn't. She looked like she had rehearsed this moment 100 times, yet still wasn't ready to face it. Her hands clutched the latte too tightly, knuckles pale, as if it were the only thing anchoring her to the ground. She offered a trembling apology and a latte, her hand shaking. I accepted the coffee. I didn't accept the apology. "Thank you," I said softly, tipping my head as I turned to leave. I didn't look back. My heart was intact. My story was mine again. When someone tries to hand you someone else's dream, you don't scramble for explanations. You walk away, you forge your own path. You grow stronger with every step into the life you choose for yourself. Sometimes, survival isn't just about escape. It's about becoming, and I had become something they never expected, unbreakable. Weeks after reclaiming my life, I received a message that cracked my newfound peace. A photo of him, my ex, standing at a tropical resort, his arms around her, both wearing rings that gleamed in the sun. I froze, thumb hovering over the screen. Why did I care? I was free. I was thriving. Yet a flicker of anger ignited inside me, reminding me that some fires never fully die. I decided to see the world through a lens he'd never considered: curiosity. I booked my own trip to a neighboring island he tagged. I arrived with nothing but a backpack and an open mind, determined to reclaim my story in a place where his shadow couldn't touch me. The island was a tapestry of emerald jungles and cerulean waters. I hiked hidden trails, discovered secret waterfalls, and learned to kayak at dawn. With each sunrise, I peeled away a layer of doubt. His image on that beach faded, replaced by the rhythm of crashing waves and my own heartbeat. On the fourth day, I found a handwritten note tucked between the pages of a borrowed novel. "To whomever finds this, live wildly, love fearlessly." No name, no address, just a whisper in someone else's voice that felt like fate. I carried that note with me everywhere, etched it into my memory. It became a mantra: live wildly, love fearlessly. In the evenings, I ventured into local villages, joining island festivals where lanterns floated on water and strangers welcomed me like family. I tasted new foods, danced barefoot in the sand, and sang songs that echoed under starlit skies. Then in a bustling market, I saw her, the other woman. She was older now, her face softer, her posture carrying a quiet remorse. She looked at me, eyes widening in recognition. We stood amid a swirl of colors: fresh produce, handcrafted necklaces, spices perfuming the air, two women bound by a man's betrayal. She approached slowly, voice gentle. "I'm sorry, I never wanted to hurt you." I felt the old pain rise, sharp and raw, but then I remembered the note: live wildly, love fearlessly. I offered her a small smile and said, "It's been a journey, but I'm okay." In that moment, I realized my story wasn't his to define. It was mine to write, with or without him, and even with her. Under the market's kaleidoscope canopy, I knew one thing: the final chapter of my life was still unwritten, and it would be more extraordinary than any vow or betrayal, because now I understood what the beginning had never prepared me for. What once began with blind trust and naive dreams had transformed into a journey of self-worth, courage, and a love I had crafted not with another, but with myself. It was never about him. It was always about who I would become when everything I believed in fell apart, and I chose to rise anyway. So I stayed. I rented a small cottage tucked into a hillside garden, where the nights were filled with cricket songs and the mornings greeted me with sunlight peeking through banana leaves. I began writing again, not just journal entries, but stories. Stories of women who found strength in the ashes. Stories that held pieces of me I never knew I had. One day, a local woman named Amara invited me to help paint a community mural. I hadn't held a brush in months, but something about her voice made me say yes. We painted under the sun for days, our hands stained in color, our spirits light. The mural became more than art, it became a declaration of healing, of color after darkness, of life beyond betrayal. Children began to visit daily, watching us work, asking questions, offering snacks from their homes. One little girl, Lena, gave me a bracelet woven from beach grass. "For your courage," she said solemnly. I wore it like armor. My evenings were no longer haunted. I read on the porch, swayed in the hammock, drank ginger tea with neighbors who barely spoke my language but always understood when I smiled. I was no longer surviving. I was living. And then, one morning, while gathering flowers near the mural, I met someone. He wasn't charming in the practiced way my ex had been. He didn't shower me with grand gestures. Instead, he listened. He noticed the details. He asked about my stories, and he stayed. At first, I resisted. My heart had been a battlefield. I didn't know how to let someone walk through its ruins without stepping on the landmines. But he was patient. He didn't try to fix me. He just walked beside me. Slowly, I let him in, piece by piece. We cooked together. We explored waterfalls. He made me laugh until my ribs hurt. He made me feel safe. Not because he promised forever, but because he made me believe I deserved joy again. And one day, as we sat on a cliff watching the waves below, I turned to him and said, "Thank you for reminding me that love can feel like peace." The past hadn't disappeared, but it had transformed. It had taught me boundaries. It had taught me resilience. And it had led me to the version of myself who could stand here, wind in her hair, eyes on the horizon, no longer a bride left behind, but a woman who chose herself. My story was not about heartbreak anymore. It was about becoming whole. And that, perhaps, was the greatest love story of all.